There are a lot of well-written characters in Persona, and you'll probably hear about the big ones. But there's one character in Persona 5 that I think is often overlooked. Maybe a lot less now than he was when the game released. He winds up being the butt of a lot of jokes, and that's honestly no mistake. But today, I want to talk about, as you could probably guess by the background, Yuuki Mishima. This is just an additional note here, but this is an interpretation of Mishima's Confidant. Not everything I say will be 100% true or anything like that. This is my interpretation of his character as a whole. And media is open to multiple interpretations. You may not feel the same way about this guy, and that's okay. I'm not really good at interpreting characters or writing. I just do think I really like this character. So just keep that in mind, I guess.
Have you seen that Phantom Aficionado website?
Mishima is honestly pretty easy to overlook as a character. I mean, just from his design alone, it's almost purposeful. He pretty much is just a schoolboy in a uniform, and that means he doesn't have much going for him in the design department. I mean, let's take a look at the regular student models, and then at him. There's a difference, sure, but you could easily mistake him for another random student. He's ordinary, plain, and the perfect character to fill the role he's been given. His design also kind of worked to the benefit of just making him generally uninteresting for a lot of people. I mean, look at the confidants in this game and tell me that he isn't the most unremarkable looking one. But like I said, that's kind of why he works in the role that he's given.
You sure it's not just physical abuse? Certainly not.
The title Mishima's former tormentors give him is Zero. In a sense, at the beginning of the story, Mishima has been defined by this as well. He's on the volleyball team, but accordingly not good enough. He's bruised, beaten up, and he kind of just accepts that. He doesn't act because no one else will, and he believes that he can't make a difference in that regard. Everyone accepts the situation he's in, and he lacks the courage to act as well. His inaction, much like everyone else's, leads to what eventually spurs the Phantom Thieves to do their thing. None of this changes the fact that Mishima is still in the box of being just like everyone else, and that adds to his backgroundiness. Even when he's placed in other social links, he's called an NPC, and in events like the school cleanup, he kind of just tries to butt in.
It's such a nice day out that even the weather seems to be mocking us.
Dude, could you try pushing your way into our conversation a little less awkwardly next time?
And even with the festival in the summer, when Ryuji, Yusuke, and Joker go, Mishima's only thing to add is that he wasn't invited as well. The writers and the game don't really hold back on making Mishima the butt of a lot of jokes, just like how the fanbase kind of does as well. So yeah, outside of the game, Mishima is also prominently seen as only an obsessed fan who isn't much of anyone in real life.
You mean I didn't have a change of heart? What?
But there is something about Mishima that I'd like to point out, and then also get into what changes about him. When the thieves officially join together, they say their goal is to give courage to others to stand up to injustices in society. Or something like that. But even before that, there's an example of this happening, and it's with Mishima. After Shiho attempts to commit suicide, Ryuji and Joker confront him, and he finally breaks. He tells them exactly what happened, and Ryuji runs off to Kamoshida. And after Joker leaves to follow Ryuji, Mishima kind of hesitates for a moment. But in that moment, he decides to take a step and act. Even in Kamoshida's office, he didn't need to speak up, but he still does. You could say, well, he only acted because of others, but is that not the point the Phantom Thieves are trying to have? Is that their action to take down the injustices in society would eventually result in people also feeling like they can take action as well. The essential point of this is not to get into the big Phantom Thieves and what they represent, but more that Mishima is the first person who is spurred on to act by the Phantom Thieves. After Kamoshida's heart is changed, Mishima also attempts to change. He creates the Phantom Aficionado website and tries to use it to make the thieves more popular. He's trying to help, but he's also not fully understanding what it is the Phantom Thieves are or what they want. In a sense, the Phantom Thieves also go through this same arc, where they accidentally shift from wanting to help others act, to wanting to be more popular. So for a while, Mishima's social link is him clearly abusing his power as the owner of the website, from trying to use it to pick up girls to collecting funds for the wrong uses. He learns from the latter pretty quickly, as there could be legal repercussions as well. But it's fairly obvious he doesn't understand the power that he technically has as a collaborator with the Phantom Thieves. He knows he can't control them, but he's also kind of able to control the fandom. And he begins to let that get to his head. His Confidant honestly kind of explores the ugly side of someone irresponsibly using their power, while still not being able to really do much at all. I mean, at the end of the day, people will pay more attention to the actions of the Phantom Thieves than whatever Mishima is doing on his end. However, as he gets more and more powerful and fame-hungry, his abuses of power continue. For example, he threatens people who talk bad about the Phantom Thieves on the website, and also his insistence on targeting individuals that he thinks are bad is another, I would call an example of his abuse of power. While in the end we may not target them purposefully, think about it if we did. And it ultimately culminates to him asking Joker if the Phantom Thieves would ever come after him. And I think that's because he knows what he's doing is wrong.
Phantom Thieves! Can you hear us?
Okay, yeah, I know, it sounds like I'm really ragging on Mishima here, but let's dial it back a little bit and refocus. Almost every Confidant in P5 doesn't really give off a good first impression. This is something I really think happens with almost every Persona game, and it feels pretty intentional. Mishima's first impression kind of drags out, and I can understand why people don't like him or just overlook his character. But for me, I think the change in him is what makes him so special as a character. The thieves confront Mishima, but they never actually change his heart. He's defensive, much like all other shadows, but you can tell that he himself is not incapable of change. And Mishima does change. That's kind of the whole reason I do like him as a character. While all of the other characters also do change in some form, he eventually takes the step to stand up and act. Not just in his social link, but in the final confrontation with Yaldabaoth, Mishima raises his fist and reaches out to us. One of the lines in his rank 10 is especially powerful.
My perception shapes the boundaries of my world. It all comes down to what's inside my heart.
The way I interpret it is that Mishima realized that he can change. What is possible for him is only what he believes is possible. That said, he's not going to start breathing fire or growing wings. This is more in the sense that he wanted to change, and in the early game you can see that he believes that to be impossible. What he tries to change is what he is. He fails because he is short-sighted. When he begins the Phansite and starts to abuse his power and ride the popularities of the thieves, he's not really changing himself, but he's trying to change what he is. Instead of being the so-called Zero who did nothing and went unnoticed, he was now basically a Reddit mod drunk on the idea that he is the producer of the Phantom Thieves. It doesn't change the person he is. And by the end of his social link, Mishima has realized that to change himself, he has to change who he is. He might still be a bit of a background character, but the changes to himself as a person are much more real than some superficial popularity. He's lucky the right people were looking out for him, because the lesson that he learned could have been learned in a much less forgiving and favorable way. And like I mentioned before, that still culminates in the final fight of Vanilla Persona 5, with him taking action while everyone else is in panic. The importance of the non-rank 10 version of this scene being some random passerby versus it being Mishima is that this shout could have come from anyone. But for Mishima, it's special because he leads. Not for the sake of popularity, but because that's who he is. He acts to convince people to believe in the Phantom Thieves, not for the sake of his own popularity, but because he knows it's the right thing to do. He may not look like a hero, and he's definitely not number one, but Mishima is someone who took action to change himself, and to me, that's admirable. And even if he needed a push from someone else to do it, don't we all? So, thanks for watching this. I've actually wanted to make a video about Mishima and how I felt about him as a character for a pretty long while now, as my opinion on this guy has kind of flip-flopped a lot over the past several years. But if you want to see more videos like this where I talk about a confidant or social link in Persona, leave a like, I guess, subscribe to the channel. You could let me know in the comments, anything goes, but also, just let me know about your favorite or least favorite or most underappreciated social link. And I guess I'll see you guys all next time.